Ethiopia in Biblical History by Peter J. Tart. I spent the last week of February teaching Old Testament at the newly formed Trinity Fellowship Pastors College in Addis Ababa. Ethiopia is by far the oldest nation I've visited, one of the few Old Testament nations still on the map. Its existence is a theological fact, testimony to the reliability of God's promises. According to the primeval history of Genesis, descendants of Cush settled the area that is now Ethiopia and Sudan soon after the flood. The Dahomite Empire was established in the 10th century BC by Menilek I, reputedly the son of Solomon and Makeda, queen of Sheba. According to the Kebre Negast, the Glory of the Kings, which was compiled in the 14th century Anno Domini, Queen Makeda made a pilgrimage to Israel to learn statecraft from Solomon, who seduced her. Makeda conceived and went home to give birth to her son. As a boy, Menilek visited his father in Jerusalem, where Solomon anointed him as king of Ethiopia. As retribution for the humiliation of his mother, Menilek stole the Ark of the Covenant and levitated it across the Red Sea to Ethiopia, where it purportedly remains to this day. It's a persistent national myth. Until Emperor Haile Selassie was overthrown in 1974, Ethiopian leaders claimed to be sons of Solomon, lions descended from the Lion of Judah. There's nothing of this legend in Scripture. To ancient Israelites, Ethiopia wasn't an ally, but an uncanny and terrifying threat. Cush's son Nimrod founded Nineveh and Babylon, Genesis 10, 8, 12, cities that later conquered Israel. Aaron and Miriam objected when Moses took a Cushite wife, Numbers 12, 1. During the reign of King Asa, Zerah the Cushite came over the southern horizon to invade Judah with hundreds of chariots and a 1,000,000-man army, 2 Chronicles 14. Against this background, the heroism of Ebed-melech is all the more notable. Jeremiah 38. Ebed-melech was a Cushite eunuch who served in the court of King Zedekiah during the last days of Judah. The prophet Jeremiah counsels Zedekiah to surrender to Babylon. Enraged by this message, Jerusalem's officials forced Zedekiah to approve their plan to put the traitorous prophet to death. Like Joseph, Jeremiah is tossed into a muddy cistern without water, left to die of thirst. Ebed-melech bursts onto the scene as an unexpected deliverer. As the wonderfully named Deusdedit Musings he points out in a monograph on the passage, Ebed-melech is a model of compassion, justice, and courage. Though a foreigner, he charges Jerusalem's leaders with evil in open court, and persuades the king to let him pull Jeremiah up from the pit. Ebed-melech's name, servant of the king, indicates he's Zedekiah's servant, but he proves himself loyal to the king. As a Gentile deliverer, he foreshadows Nebuchadnezzar and Cyrus. He literally rescues Jeremiah from death, raising him from beneath the earth, a figure of the Spirit who brings a greater prophet from the grave. In every way, Ebed-melech is the antithesis of the corrupt Jewish courtiers, a Gentile without Torah who keeps the Torah written on his heart, Romans 2:14-15. Ebed-melech is first fruits of a great harvest from the land of Cush. According to Orthodox tradition, Christianity came to the country in the late 3rd century through 2 shipwrecked Syrian boys, the brothers Edesius and Frumentius, who were brought to the court of the Aksum emperor. Through their faithful service, the boys rose to high positions, and their witness convinced the emperor to become a Christian. In 305, the emperor's successor sent Frumentius to Alexandria to ask the patriarch, none other than Athanasius, to send a bishop to Aksum to promote evangelism and church construction. Athanasius ordained Frumentius, who returned to baptize Emperor Ezan, who made Christianity the official religion of his empire. Ethiopia is among the oldest of Christian nations. In Acts, Luke tells us that Christianity arrived in Ethiopia already in the early 1st century. The first known Gentile to be baptized was another Ethiopian eunuch, a latter-day Menilek, who meets Philip in a spirit-arranged encounter on the road from Jerusalem to Gaza, Acts 8. Though cut off, like the suffering servant in the text he reads, the Ethiopian eunuch becomes fruitful, with a place in the house of his God Isaiah. 56, 1, 8. And Deuteronomy 23, 1, 5. Already in the Old Covenant, when the very name Cush could send chills down Israelite spines, the Lord promised he would one day adopt Ethiopia as a homeborn son and a child of Zion. Psalms 87, 4. One day, he promised, Cush would bring tribute to Jerusalem. Isaiah 45, 14. These promises formed the story arc of Ethiopia's long history. Every time you see Ethiopia is still on the map, you're seeing real-world proof of the faithfulness of God. Peter J. Latart is president of Theopolis Institute.
Do you realize what the ark is? It's a transmitter. It's a radio for speaking to God.
An army which carries the ark.
Oh, you remember that well, right? Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Ark of the Covenant. They found it, but in our morning passport, Nadia Bilchik has found it as well.
Yes, and the mystery continues.
And it continues.
I mean, Steven Spielberg certainly popularized it, but this is a mystery that's been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. And where is the Ark of the Covenant? Well, the Ethiopians, both Christians and Jewish Ethiopians, believe that's in a church in Ethiopia.
Okay.
Now, interestingly enough, the story and the mystery has revived because this particular church developed a leak, which means that the famous ark will have to be moved. Now, why this is a problem is that the only person who can actually watch it is one guardian. He is the only person who is allowed to see this Ark of the Covenant.
Let me make sure I got this right. They sprung a leak, so they need to do
some
repairs.
It
needs to be moved.
And he can't move it alone. So it may be the first time in thousands of years that people get to see it.
Okay, are we sure it's there, or they've been playing a hoax on us for years?
What popular belief is that there is some ancient relic there, and that they really believe it is the Ark. But Jews believe that it's in the tunnels under the temple in Jerusalem, and there's even some belief that it's in Jordan on the top of Mount Nebo. So it really is one of those great mysteries. But you have to believe that the Ethiopians certainly believe this is it, and they treat it as the most sacred relic in the world.
So what are they going to do?
Well, what they're going to do at this point is either repair the leak, or I don't know how it's going to work as to how they're going to actually move it, because the belief is that if you see the Ark, you will implode. So it's one of these great mysteries. I know Steven Spielberg has nothing, but there you can see the beautiful wood encased with gold.
Okay, what is this? This is the, what am I seeing here?
This is supposed to be the Ark, which is the container of the 10 Commandments that God gave to Moses on Mount Sinai.
Okay, but only one guy can see it. Aren't people lining up trying to get a glimpse? Why would you want to if you're going to implode?
Absolutely, which is why it's been secret up until this point. But with the leak in the roof, it has to be moved. So what's going to happen to the sacred relic? And whether you believe it or not, it certainly is something mysterious and certainly something sacred. And maybe not in our entire lifetime will we ever know where the real Ark of the Covenant is. But we live by those laws, don't we, TJ?
Don't we, though? All right. What's their timeline before I let you go here for when they're going to fix the leak, or when might we have
it's
some
happening
resolution?
over the next... because it only happened at the end of last week that the leak arose. So what's going to happen? We'll be following closely. Seeing the 10 Commandments have quite a lot of power over our lives, don't they?
Nadia Bilchik with another great morning passport. Thank you so much.